I never took a watercolor class, never learned the rules, which might have been a gift. The first time I ever worked with watercolors was in the fall of 1989. I'd always been afraid of them, but I was going to France to stay at Joan Mitchell's, and on a previous trip I had done oil paintings on canvas, and when I was coming home it was too difficult to pack them all, so I threw away a bunch of them. So on this next trip I brought paper, watercolors and brushes, and painted every day.
Joan Mitchell shared her studio with Bill and gave him a wall to hang up his work.
I was always amused in the morning when I'd come back and see how she had rearranged my pictures on the wall. And she would talk to me about them. And I was very influenced by her. But when I left, I stopped working with watercolor completely because I needed to separate and try to find what I wanted to do myself. Put the watercolors in a box and they dried out. And then in the fall of 2017, I had sent a friend a box of watercolor markers, and I had bought a box for myself, but it took me a year to open them and try them. In the fall of 2019, I would sit at my dining room table and watch TV shows on my computer and do watercolors. I really enjoyed it. I loved the line. One night I was drinking a bottle of seltzer water. I thought, I wonder what this would do. And I poured it on, blotted it, rubbed it around with my fingers and later with a brush. I have a couple of small flathead watercolor brushes I like. Sometimes I would take the individual sheets and put them under the kitchen sink between two placemats and paper towels. When they were dry, I'd go back to working on them again. And I love the differences that happen, wet onto dry or wet onto wet. I had no intention of showing them to anyone. But Mike and Tina came over one day. They were organizing a show for the winter of 2019 and invited me to put some watercolors into it. And that was the first time I'd shown them.
He talked about the subjects that inspire him.
The split-leaf philodendron plant I have in the studio, a bunch of fake flowers, reproductions of paintings I liked by other artists tacked to my wall, buildings and trees out the window. And there's a huge peony tree in my backyard that I love. The blossoms on it last for maybe 1 day to a week. And that is always a shot of adrenaline for me to see it.
Bill also told me that some of his dinners can be an inspiration for paintings.
I walk over to the Woodlands Cemetery in West Philadelphia. I love it there. And it's not vast, not like being at the Grand Canyon, but it's enough outside for me. I'm surrounded by gorgeous trees. I can always imagine how Corot might have painted them. Realist painters tell me I'm an abstract painter, and abstract painters tell me I'm a realist. I don't see so well without my glasses, so I say that I'm a nearsighted realist. I can get a few things up close, but mostly the space in my paintings is what I see if I don't have my glasses on. Not that I'm trying to replicate something verbatim, but I want the feeling of something that's real. People always say, why do you paint flowers? I think everything in art is a metaphor for something else. My work is phallic. in a way that parallels Georgia O'Keeffe's flowers as being vaginal. It's taken me a long time to just let that be.
Artists and the viewers of their work are not always in perfect alignment. Bill texted me. A woman at the opening told me all my pictures look like ovaries and women's breasts. That was a first.
The oil paintings can go on for a long time. I've just started reworking one that I had exhibited back in 1985. The watercolors don't take that long. I usually go back and forth on them for 4 or 5 sessions, even though they look like they might have been done in an instant. I like that when that happens. The titles always come later. The titles have a specific meaning and association for me. An inspirational evening was titled for a friend in San Francisco who at the start of the pandemic started calling me in the evenings, and we would talk for hours each time. It really lifted my spirits when I would see his name on my caller ID. Another one called My Favorite Days. I like the way I feel when I look at the picture, and it makes me think of a friend of mine who I've known for about 20 years. He comes over once in a while, and I always feel this great connection. And I've done a couple of paintings for him that I call My Favorite Days. I sometimes feel when people who already know my work but don't yet know me, when we finally meet, they're a little disappointed. They expect me to be much happier because that's what they see in my work. I always wanted to paint something beautiful, something that would evoke pleasure, but there's also a bittersweetness, a sadness, really.
Bill talked about his friendship with artist Harry Soviak.
Harry was someone who I really looked up to, unusually sensible and sensitive. He was able to interact with everyone. During the pandemic, a friend of mine died. She left me 2 of his watercolors, which I've been looking at ever since every day. And for years, the colored note card of a watercolor from his 1976 exhibition at Marion Locke's was tacked to my studio wall. Harry died in early November 1984 at 49 years old. He and his partner, Vincent, were 2 of the first guys I knew who died of AIDS. I named 2 pictures, a rose for Harry and flowers for Harry. It's my own attempt to keep him present and not let him disappear from my life.
Bill lives alone, and the pandemic years have been challenging for him.
I took walks with wonderful friends, but other than that, I was pretty much by myself.
He found it hard to paint for a time, so he embarked upon a long-delayed chore.
Vain as I am, I thought, I gotta clean my house up, because if this pandemic takes me away, I'd be so ashamed if people came into my house and saw what a mess it was. I finally cleaned out my cellar. It was the only thing that made me feel purposeful. I found tons of stuff that triggered memories. I found a lot of etching plates.
In 1999, Bill had started working with Philadelphia's master printer, Cindy Ettinger.
It was always a collaborative effort, although she really did most of the work. I made the plates, but she etched them and inked them and printed them. Making etchings with Cindy over the years really helped me grow as a painter.
Bill wasn't sure what to do with these old etching plates he found in his cellar.
I was going to throw them away, but I decided to rework them. I used some engraving tools. It was a pleasure to collaborate again with Cindy. Partially the reason I did it was to be working with someone again.
Printmaking for Bill is an endlessly innovative process.
I often paint at night. Things just flow out. But if I paint in the morning, then I can be much clearer. My head is in a different place. But I need both. In between those times, I avoid it by taking walks. And then I think, what the hell am I doing? Go back and paint. So hopefully I get back there by the afternoon. Sometimes I try to figure out what won't make the painting work. I push myself somewhere I don't know. I have no idea what they're going to be when I start. I just have a lot of faith in the process. The narrative I present would be how the picture was made. That's the journey I take when I look at other people's pictures. For my own, I hope they unfold a little slowly, that there's still more to see when you look at it again.
I have been friends with Bill since we were at the Pennsylvania Academy together in the 1970s. What I want people to know about my friend is not just that he is a wonderful artist, which is obvious when you see his work, but also that his love and support for his fellow artists is boundless. Bill Scott is the beating heart of the Philadelphia art community.